My name is Jim Harries. I'm originally from Britain. I'm a missionary in East Africa, have been since 1988, so I've served now for 38 years, mostly in Kenya, also in Tanzania. Actually began my time in Zambia. My engagement is primarily in theological education, usually of informal variety using indigenous African languages. Okay, so I'm here today to answer some questions regarding Vulnerable Mission. So Vulnerable Mission, the Alliance for Vulnerable Mission, I was one of the founders in 2007, and I'm very happy to answer questions about Vulnerable Mission that I consider to be a critical component for the way the West should be looking at Christian mission around the world in the days ahead. So the first question I'm given is this: tell us what Vulnerable Mission is. Give us a definition. Now, it is mission carried out by a Western missionary who in some key ministry confines him or herself entirely to use of local languages and resources. So, next question is, how does this contrast with standard or traditional ways of doing mission? Well, subtly, profoundly, and foundationally. And I mean that. I mean, we sometimes criticize African people for adopting the prosperity gospel, yet Western mission often leads them in exactly that direction. People who we are reaching follow us for our money, and of course for our language, which is also these days incredibly valuable. Cut that out, and things change radically. The audience changes. From the audience being the educated, upwardly mobile, as we might know them, people interested in prosperity of that nature, from personal experience, instead one finds the genuine routine strata of society. Many of these people you actually find are very into what we might call spirituality. Third question. I would think that someone on the call would believe that they're already doing that kind of mission. Flesh out for us a couple of field examples of how it works out. Now, some people, if they've not listened to you carefully, might well think they're already doing that kind of mission. We are serious though. Language learning is good, but what about language use? I find in Africa many people want to speak English. If you follow their lead, learning another language becomes difficult. So, in Vulnerable Mission, we propose that you refuse to follow that lead. They address you in English, you respond in their language, consistently, over years, even if they complain. This, of course, will transform the relationship. They know, you don't. They lead, you struggle to follow. They're in charge. Your role is to encourage, often just by your presence and through your interest and so on. Not having outside resources has a similar effect. After a while, certain people lose interest in you if you don't have money to offer, or scholarships, etc. Those who don't lose interest in that way offer you friendship on their terms, in local terms, not to dominate them, but to share life in ways they know to do. You get access to the local community. You get an identity that makes sense locally, brother, uncle, father, son, whatever it is. You get the big challenge, how to continue this relationship now that people no longer want you for money. What are the spiritual principles behind operating from a vulnerable stance? Now, the main exception in answer to this question I can think of is King David. Otherwise, other spiritual leaders in the Bible operated from a position of vulnerability. Moses, clearly. Elijah, Elisha, Samuel, King Josiah, even Nehemiah, Jesus, Paul. They maintained their relationships to what they had to offer spiritually, not because they had money and not because they spoke Greek. The principle is that you offer someone the opportunity to reject what you have without that rejection threatening their life or well-being. Next question. Often you hear the word contextualization used in mission. What is the difference between what you're talking about and contextualization? Now, my answer here would be vulnerable mission enables contextualization. I think contextualization can be an unhelpful context if it is considered abstract and something one does for people. For a vulnerable missionary, contextualization happens organically. For example, if you cannot draw a crowd who want to learn English or with money, what are you going to do? You must adjust to the point or place at which you can speak relevantly into people's lives in the absence of those things, which of course is putting you into the same position as other people in that community. Presenting and living the gospel in a relevant way is contextualization. Next, number 6, if somebody's job was to prepare missionaries for overseas service, how would you suggest they go about imparting these concepts to them? Well, cut through the dross comes to mind. I mean, I don't want to offend anybody, but let's remember what is good PR in the West is not necessarily what works on the ground in Africa or elsewhere. Creating good PR for the West is contextualization to, say, America. But there also has to be contextualization to Africa. To impart these concepts to potential missionaries, 1, help them realize that people do speak for money. Then, when they speak for money, one simply cannot be sure that what they say is a reflection of what is in their heart. Secondly, have a look at a few of the articles about language that we promote in the Alliance for Vulnerable Mission. Translation transforms in so many ways. To know what one is saying to people, one has to use their heart language. You have to learn that language by engaging with people within their own cultural context. Now, there's another challenge. Otherwise, it can be a guessing game. This applies even actually if people do know English. People from around the world who speak to you in English root their English in, well, maybe 2 things, pleasing people with money and, of course, in their home language and discourse. To impart these concepts to new missionaries requires 1, know what I've just described above yourself. 2, do not be afraid to teach others the same. So next question is, what has been the response of people as you've launched out using this kind of vulnerable mission approach? Well, allow me to speak personally. I've served in Africa for 38 years. I these days use entirely local tongues with local people. I use my own money only in select circles. My main ministry is with people who do not benefit from my money. This is like a sifting process. The people I end up with are those who are interested in themselves, not those who want to be like white people. They're the people who are serious about their own traditions. They're the people who are amazed that Jesus speaks their language. They're the people who are looking to Jesus, not to foreign money, to rescue them from their traditions. Now, if by people you mean fellow missionaries, then, well, vulnerable mission is a big challenge for many of them. Some want to have nothing to do with it. It's too threatening. Vulnerable mission forces us to rely on God's Holy Spirit, not to prompt donors to give us money, but in order to be able to relate to people if we do not have money. The practice of vulnerable mission can take away our prestige. So, let's say you're a senior leader in a missions agency. What would you be thinking about? What would you think about your organization when it comes to vulnerable mission? I would suggest that people in the sending offices look carefully at language. There are materials out there. The important thing is how language is used and what happens in the course of translation. Now, look, it took me a long time to realize. Most people use simple models of translation. When one realizes what is actually going on, one has to love vulnerable mission. That is, one must acquire a deep desire to communicate with people as they are. Secondly, as I've mentioned above, look carefully at how people speak for money. I don't think we should blame them, but if that's what we're responding to, we'll be selling a package of come to Jesus and be wealthy like us. We need some missionaries, and this takes a long term of service, who sidestep this, offer Jesus without money. To begin with, once everyone is informed, one does not have to require all missionaries to follow the above principles, only some.